are, of course, live in 3, in 2, and in 1. Today, let's have a real conversation. Instead of all the shiny, fancy stuff that you normally see online, let's talk about the reality that Airbnb in 2025 is harder than ever. And it's harder in a few ways. And the key thing I want to bring up is how this industry is no longer the lowest barrier to entry opportunity that it used to be. You no longer get the grace of a learning curve. Yeah, grace of a learning curve according to Airbnb's terms of services. There's a few of them that I want to go over. I also want to talk about the meta of it though, because Airbnb being harder does equate out to it being easier on the back end in some ways. Okay, so let's have fun dissecting this. Let's first address the elephant in the room that Airbnb no longer allows you to learn. Okay, they will ban you before you figure it out. There's another couple things I think we should talk about too, dealing with the economy. But my name's Sean Rocky Geach. I've done over 10 million on Airbnb, over 150 properties. My students have done 1 billion and 42 different countries. So I get a lot of data from my students as well. So if you've been keeping up in the news about Airbnb or you're casing out this opportunity, Airbnb claims to be this like place where you could just put your property up, right? Put your extra space up, excess economy kind of thing. They make it seem really easy. Right? That's their marketing. But when you get involved, there's going to be a few things that you have to know already, like how to navigate them, or you'll like get punished for not knowing. One is review removal. Second is like resolutions, getting paid for stuff, proper documentation. Third is housekeeping, because you know the people are getting really privy to that. I've got a couple of horror stories that I probably should share with you in this. And then 4 is design. Now, this isn't world-class design, but I'm doing a 101 Dalmatians theme property in a studio of mine downtown Dallas, and I figured it'd be worth giving it a try. So let's talk about these 4 things that are harder than normal that you have to know. Airbnb's review removal system allows you to pick one reason why a review can come down, and you get 1 appeal, and if you don't win the appeal, the review stays up. Back in the day, Airbnb used to let you make your claim in general. Somebody would read it and you could appeal over and over and over again and beat it up, and they no longer allow that. Now that means that a lot of your reviews that could get taken down probably won't get taken down because of a format issue, like the way that you argue it, and then you'll have to take it to arbitration. And that's a whole mess too. But like I said in my last live stream yesterday, you could argue that Airbnb's new policies are very anti-host and negligent, and you could even sue for your, not sue, but you could arbitrate for a refund for your arbitration costs. Watch that video if you want more details, and we've talked a lot about that lately in the last couple of weeks. Now, Airbnb's resolution center payout situation, also this is from yesterday's Zoom, but I have more for you. For a friend of mine has some really nice properties, and somebody burned his floor and caused $5,000 in damages, and then Airbnb didn't want to pay. They counteroffered $1,000. He said no. Then they said, we won't pay you at all because you didn't do it right. He opened up a resolution right away, right? But they said you had to message the guest before opening up a resolution, which does not exist in Airbnb's terms of service. The agent really just lied to try to get out of it. So that's another one of those situations we have to be careful for, because they could trick you into accepting something. Then you sign a document that says from here on forth, there's nothing else you can do. This is closed. So if they lie to you and misrepresent to you, and then you sign the document, they're able to use that document to defend against you. So lying to you kind of has a business advantage that they wanted, that they really find worth it. Now, more than that, I had a guest try to claim that he had bed bugs. My floors in the house that he said had bed bugs or lice are very dark brown. But he sent a photo where the floor color is like a light brown, even lighter than that, even like a little bit of gray. And a couple days later, after doing this full investigation, I'm like, hey man, the photos you sent me aren't of our place. He tried to get a free night's stay. We even gave him a second property on his very final night of his reservation to make sure that he was going to be safe. Like if there were bed bugs or fleas, we acted fast. And he tried to get us for a 1-day free stay. Then one of my other students filed something today, or maybe last night, posted on Facebook that a couple, like what looked like to be a respectable couple, like professors or something, they took a ice bag and they filled it with water, and then they took a photo of it to make it look like their ice melted, to make it look like the refrigerator didn't work, so they could try to get a partial refund for their stay, for their fridge not working, but the fridge was working the whole time. And the host had to be able to prove that the refrigerator never went down, right? So there's these guests that are getting better and better at creating false claims to try to get refunds. And because of this, our documentation needs to be world-class type. Airbnb doesn't give you as a host time to learn that there's a hustle on the back end, both for reviews or for resolutions. When you're a new host, you're gonna get burned bad. And so you have to kind of play around in Facebook groups to see these horror stories to know how important documentation is. And this bleeds into number 3, which is housekeeping. The areas that people try to get refunds on the most tend to be housekeeping related. They try to claim that there's hair in the bed or that something wasn't cleaned or something. Now, your housekeeper should be taking photos of everything, but they should be taking it in wild detail. I know some of my students have even gone to having them take videos. So they kind of get in close up and stuff. So the housekeeper doesn't have to take a bunch of photos and upload a bunch of photos. They upload one data heavy long video, but then from that, you can screenshot any number of photos that you need to prove that the place is clean. Also, guests will say that the place smells. That's one that's hard to defend against, but you can actually have a checklist that shows that the housekeeper was asked if the home smells and asked other questions, and they can click yes or no. Or like you can even just have a marker board or like a clipboard with paper. And as long as they take a photo that they can attest that there's no smell in the home, the photo documentation for the post cleaning, like the end of clean, that's enough to stop a guest from claiming that there's smells. We've actually defeated smell claims that way, which is important. So documentation is gonna be important if you're a host. This is in ways that like Airbnb is getting a lot harder. Who remembers the 4th one? Oh, design. Okay. So now design. This is something that's not like Airbnb. Sorry guys, my arm, like I did arms yesterday and I just can't hold a phone without shaking. That's how good the arm workout was apparently. So, oops. But Airbnb's landscape has changed. This is an Airbnb policy, but this is Airbnb landscape. Ever since COVID, it got really easy. People called it revenge travel. And then revenge travel got a lot of investors in. Now, this changed the type of host that exists, and this is important for all you guys. The types of investors that were in before were low barrier to entry, early adopters, some people who had a lot of passion, so there were some good listings, but there wasn't as much money in the space. After COVID and revenge travel, a lot of investment money came in, like a lot of bank money came in. And all these rich people who came in to invest had the money to do good with design. They still don't care about hosts. And this changes the meta again, which I'll tell you at the end of this video. You're gonna wanna stick around for this. So Airbnb had a bunch of rich investors who could afford good design, who could afford good furniture, who saw the long-term play, multi-year play of buying good stuff. But then the bust hit, right? So even like they thought it was gonna last longer, which is kind of funny, but they spent good money on property. So what happened is post-COVID, revenge travel, boom of investors, and that quality of product is good, and then the bust hit. And a lot of everyday hosts got their butts kicked because everything that looked nice was performing better on the algorithm, okay? Now this is where the meta comes in, where I said it can be easier for people, but also that Airbnb changed stuff because of these rich investors. So the bottom fell out back then, and a lot of hosts quit. And a lot of good hosts quit. They just didn't have good looking product, and Globo Gym houses were outperforming, like a lot of heavy amenities and stuff. Well, Airbnb since changed their algorithm, my friends. Reviews are more important than ever. I found a house. We're gonna call the house a house on Lake Wonderful because it's private. My students are doing market research for home purchases and I don't want this thing getting stolen. But on Lake Wonderful, there was a Globo Gym style property, $1 million house, pool, hot tub. That house is doing like $70,000 a year. And that's not enough to cover the mortgage and the holding costs. There's a house down the street that we're gonna call Grandma's house. The photos are not pretty. They're like ugly, they're dark. The furniture looks like Grandma's furniture, like somebody just put their house on Airbnb, very basic. And then the rest of it is like really family friendly. They've got like paddle boards and stuff. All of it's on the lake, right? That house would sell for $300,000 less than Globo Gym. And it's doing about $150,000. It's doing double of Globo Gym, okay? Grandma's house wins. And this is important because what we're finding is there's product market fit and people are looking for a very specific thing. And Grandma's house is able to give the thing that families want at a better price, but also Globo Gym had a couple bad reviews and now it's getting murdered. And I believe that Airbnb's algorithm has changed to reflect experience beyond amenities, okay? There's an aggressive split home thing that Airbnb is doing. So in some markets, they'll show you houses, but then they'll also show you that you can book 2 houses at the same time to get your reservation served. And it's either because they're showing two smaller houses with positive reviews, or they're just trying to upsell people. But it's very possible that all these things are pointing to the fact that Airbnb recognizes that there's a lot of rich people inventory that is poor hospitality inventory. And they're trying to lean guest favorites, superhost, high reviews, absence of bad reviews, a lot of trust-based stuff. And if small hosts with decent properties and decent photos are algorithmically underperforming initially, if their reviews are solid, then Airbnb will push them up the algorithm anyway, because end of funnel data, which is a review, is more important than top of funnel data. Okay, just try to remember that. For all of you guys out there, don't feel too overwhelmed by these people who beat you on quality. Play the long game. But I do recommend that we still invest into design, because when a property launches initially, Airbnb doesn't have data. So Airbnb has to go on top of funnel stuff, clicks and views and conversions. And so you're most likely to perform if your listing is positive, novel, looks good, good photos. Grandma's house is lucky because Grandma's house has 200 something reviews. She's probably been doing this for a long, long time. And that presence of reviews gives a lot of trust. I don't know if Grandma's house could start right now with her quality photos and still do as good, because the photos are really ugly. I don't think a new listing can climb the algorithm without having it all together, because that's kind of how saturated Airbnb as a whole is. You don't have to have a perfect crispy property. You have to have good market fit. And I think novelty, and that's why I'm doing this Dalmatians themed, something just kind of fresh. People are like, oh, I haven't seen one of those before. I'm not going to see another one in the market. There's not going to be another Dalmatians themed property in Dallas unless somebody watches this channel and gets a little ambitious. But somebody could do this in Atlanta, North Carolina, Chicago, and they'd be a one of one in their area and be able to have some novelty. Every property in this building, we're kind of trying to flip to do a different direction. This one is an appeal to nostalgia, you could say. And that's what we're trying to do. We're going to see if nostalgia wins. So these four things are things that we need to be contemplative on, that we have to have some acumen on, because as soon as the listing starts on Airbnb, Airbnb is way more unforgiving. Like I said, reviews matter so much more than ever. If you get a bad review because of bad delivery of service, or a guest is unhappy about cleaning, or if a guest tries to extort you, gives you a bad review, and you can't fight that review because you don't know how the review policy works, bad reviews will punish you more than ever, because Airbnb is trying to build on trust and satisfaction more than anything else now. And if you want to initially perform on Airbnb, you have to understand that a good product with good photos is what gets clicked first. We also have to do a little bit of pricing strategy, but that's something where okay, you don't get a booking because you don't know price. That's not the end of the world. But you get a booking and get a better review, that might actually be the end of the world. So I invite you guys, if you're new to Airbnb, this channel has all this stuff to learn: reviews, resolutions, pricing strategy, design, all of it. I've even got a playlist on design that I'll tag at the end of this video when this live stream buffers. If you guys have questions on how to run businesses, aside from just hanging out with me today, thanks guys, please leave some questions in the comment thread, and I'll make you guys some fresh videos for 2025. As always, my friends, I will see you on the other side.